the author, Benjamin Graeber. Thank you. What questions do you have for us?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Liz, the director, both Terry, John, Alicia. Thank you very much. Wasn't
Actors,
a wonderful
round of applause
cast?
for our cast. Once more.
Director.
9 o'clock in the morning, prostitution, Joe the Volcano, a lot to handle at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I've got questions.
Okay.
Of course. You know, obviously one of Arthur Kopit's favorite lines, because he said at both conferences, that plays are Jewish. And you will understand because he quotes one of the Passover questions, why is this night different from other nights? So instead of 2, I've got 3 questions.
Okay, ask away.
Edward Albee, at the last conference, I haven't heard him say it this time, but he says, "Thou darst not write anything trivial for the theater." So my question out of that is, what in my play matters? Why does it matter? Then, I don't know if everybody made Emily Mann's lunch. She had a line that really struck me, that any good play is about the intersection of the heart and mind. So I'd like to know what elements of my play are about the intersection of the heart and mind. And last, my teacher, Scott Working, had us do a exercise in which he had us read a Poe article in which he gave just incredible instructions on how he wrote The Raven. And the most important part was how it ended, how people felt at the end. So my last question is, how you felt when you left the theater, when the play is over.
Those are great questions. Those are some of the best questions we've actually had in the lab. Let me respond to the first one, why does play matter? It ties into what I think this play is, which is driving it. It's a very oddly structured play. So in some ways, the structure, I think, is something that you would need to think about. And one of the reasons I say that is because I think the play has a desire running underneath it. Why it matters is there's a desire, there's a need for these 2 human beings to solve something that happened to them, an incident that, why it happened, and the things that happen around it have plagued both of these people their entire lives, and they're still holding on to it. And for whatever reason, the death of Rex kind of catapults them both into this moment of reconciliation or non-reconciliation. And in some ways, it's a lot for a short play to hold. Okay, so my encouragement, my deep encouragement to you, is to keep working with it, because I think there's a lot more play there to the play there. And that said, it ties into that ending, which I think is very powerful. I wouldn't change an ounce of that ending. It's fascinating. You dive into a couple of areas that I think have been explored by playwrights, and you actually go somewhere where they don't go. In The Homecoming, which was talked about, when this man brings his wife home and eventually she agrees to become a sex slave, we never know why. When in Everything in the Garden, that the play that Edward adapted from the Giles Cooper play, these women prostitute themselves to keep up a lifestyle. We are never quite allowed, because of the nature of that absurdist quality of you're not allowed to know. We don't know why. In some ways, you've done something very, very interesting, which is you've tried to give us the reasons why they do this, and I'm still curious about why.
Good.
In some way, the first question I had is, why would she even open her door to this man? And somehow, the fact that she has not cashed that check answered that for me. If they live in a small town, how do people not know about this incident? Is Nathan still around? Is this still part of the culture of the town that she did this? How do they live with it? There's a weird kind of, does this take place during college? There's a toga thing going on, And did they stay in the town where they went to college? It's just a weird, it's one of those moments when Edward says something took me out of the play or made me question. That was one of the questions in the play. And then you seem to have almost two plays in one. You seem to have a play that surrounds this moment of, in the present, of reconciliation, and then there's this separate play, a waterbed play, that deals with Joe and the volcano. I was fascinated by that, and how many of you know Joe and the Volcano? Because I don't really know it that well. It's kind of a cult. It's become kind of a cult classic, right? It's not a great movie, but it's a cult movie. Because I've heard other people reference it.
Written by a playwright.
Written by a playwright.
Shanley.
Oh, John Patrick Shanley. I've heard very dark things about it that was like horrifying. But the thing that's interesting is the fact that this incident is about someone jumping into the volcano. And I got that, and I thought that was a very powerful metaphor. And in some ways, I think in terms of the structure and going back and looking at the structure, you have three things that might serve as kind of helping this structure, which is Joan Volcano, which has its own structure, which if we played with that a little bit more, might help give us the play, because we get to that kind of halfway through the play. And I thought, oh, that's kind of neat, but can we get that sooner to help shape it? Or the notion of the time machine, And then there's something that you lost, and I was really curious, and I would love to see this explored. We lose the dog. And the dog is such a powerful moment in the play, and his kindness towards the dog, because in some ways, and I think I mentioned this to you earlier, that she kind of is the dog. And there's this horrible moment of I have to be honest with you, he's a seriously disgusting human being that Barry allows, that he pimps his I guess, girlfriend at that point to a friend. What is it about that friend? What kind of power does that friend have over him that he's willing to do that? I wasn't sure. I know, for example, in Glengarry Glen Ross, why those salesmen do what they do, and because they're driven by this level of need, a horrifying set of need. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure enough about that relationship. I wasn't sure why Katie gives in to that dark Machiavellian thing, why they go into that. So I was very curious about all that. And because of the one-act structure of the play, I was left still wanting a little bit more. There you go. So, my other questions. Does Barry ever do this again? Why does Katie go into it? Do they have a relationship again after? Does that end it? I also thought of another structure for the play, which is the Netflix structure of the play, because we started to get into several other movies, and I thought, maybe the structure of the play could be an envelope coming into the door, and you connect it, and now the next part of the play will be built on the structure of Groundhog Day. What did Rex mean to them? Because there's this weird moment. We get this little tiny moment. We go back to the boxer playing with the kids, and there's some neat metaphors about the snowman, really lovely textual metaphors. But then I wasn't sure how that ties into, we lost Rex. Okay, we lost the dog. And I was kind of, don't lose that dog, So anyway, that's my response. Carrie and Tyrone, I'll leave it up to you.